A comparison of life in the United States and Europe during the period from 1860 to 1865, as told by UK women's basketball coach Matthew Mitchell. Life in the northern United States.
Life certainly could be easier for the women up north. While the husbands and sons are off fighting in the war, there's plenty to be done here at home. I have a household to run while Matthew's off to war. Then there's the time I spend volunteering at the Army Hospital every other day. I hear that many women are working right alongside the soldiers as nurses on the battlefront, and some are even fighting alongside the men. Can you imagine? Fighting? More power to them. I sure have a lot of pride in my country, but it's taking a toll on family life. Of course, Matthew is so excited about fighting for the Union, and I want him to be happy, but it's going to be hard to raise little Michelle without Matthew around.
What are those rednecks thinking? Breaking off from the Union? Have they forgotten how hard this country worked to establish itself in the first place? Guess there's nothing I can do about that. I jumped at the opportunity to fight for my country. Damn hillbillies. They honestly think the whole point of this war is just to free their slaves and kill their production? Ignorant ninnies. A lot of us couldn't care less about their slaves. This is about keeping the country from going to hell in a handbasket. Bunch of anarchists.
Sevenscore years ago, I gave my famous address to the nation at Gettysburg after a huge Union victory in the Civil War. My visions about the birth of true freedom as a country united for one cause began with that bloody war, but never was a war more necessary to protect the foundations of this country. The improvement of our economy is reason for great excitement around the Union. The wartime spirit is bringing our workers together, and the people are responding well to higher taxes necessary to maintain our resources and finances throughout this war. I would love to stay and talk, but I have to run. I have to meet Mary and head to Ford's Theater for a nice night out. Life in the southern United States. Damn Yanks! Don't they know they ain't got no chance? Don't they know a southern man can lick 10 of their boys any day? The fools. They should just go on home and leave our slaves alone. You can't free the Negroes. Who would pick the cotton? You gotta keep the Negroes in their place. Otherwise, they'll be in government office and more white women before you know it. Every man in the South will die before we let that happen.
Those silly men, always talking about fighting and war. Fiddle-dee-dee. Who cares? There's supposed to be a ball at the Jones Plantation on Saturday, but you know it won't be the least bit of fun because all the men who haven't already gone to fight in the war will still be talking about the war. I want to dance. This war is so terrible. The only way a girl can have any fun is going down to help nurse the convalescent soldiers down at the hospital. Some of them are quite handsome, but they can't dance either, what with their missing arms and legs. It's a shame. So many promising boys ruined, or dead. This war is so hard on the poor women left at home. Always a fetching and a carrying. Miss Margaret is all in a flurry getting ready for this ball, and her looking like a hussy with that makeup on her face. It's enough to wear a poor old Negro out. There are times when being a slave is just too hard, like all the time. I hope the Yankees and Mr. Lincoln free us soon. I love my baby Margaret, but I wants to go north. My mama died alone in a little run-down shack back of a big house in Louisiana. That's not going to be me. I wants to die free woman.
Life in Europe.
This period was very important for science in Europe. Of course, the most important discovery was my work in the field of genetics in 1865. I have to say, though, I never quite thought I would be working so much with pea plants growing up. What a boring job. I deserve all the attention I get. In fact, all other important scientists of this time weren't really all that important at all. Imagine what I could have done working with exciting things like finches or physics. Fincher's The Element of Psychophysics was all a bunch of rubbish anyway. Origin of Species? Well, it was 1859, so it shouldn't technically even be a part of this project. And by the way, don't tell anyone at the monastery that I broke my vow of silence for this. I've just been holding it in for so long.
Charles Dickens at your service. Back to shed a wee bit of light on literature in Europe in the first half of the 1860s. Of course, this was when my great expectations raised the bar on literature around the world. Not to toot my own horn, of course. Some other important works of the time were Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground, and Tolstoy's War and Peace. Didn't quite get through that one. Oh, and please, sir, can I have some more Jules Verne's? Journey to the Center of the Earth was bloody genius. Don't mean to be a Scrooge, though, but I better shove off.
Down with the workforce overlords! Up with the working class! Workers' rights have been a big deal here in Europe for years. What we need is a system that brings the working class up to the level of the upper class. While they sit on their high pedestals spending their money on whatever they see fit to make their lives more entertaining and luxurious, we slave our lives away working for minimal pay. That guy Marx seems to have it all figured out. We won't settle for anything less than full workers' rights. Down with the aristocracy! Oh, well, back to the factory. Gotta keep bread on the table somehow.
Fyodor Dostoevsky at your service, here to give you a little bit of info about the European upper class. Really, all you need to know is that the upper class was fixated upon the hobby of gambling. Of course, you had to have a little bit of money to participate.
This is exactly why governments around Europe are stopping you filthy men from gambling. My father would never stand for such immoral actions.
Oh, please, Princess. Your father proposed the abolishment of gambling because he lost to me in roulette last week. Besides, that doesn't stop us from going to Monaco.
Good luck getting back to Russia, then, with all those winnings, Mr. Dostoevsky. Good day.
Just a couple more rounds. I'm sure I'll be able to get home. Say, do you fellas take IOUs?
Special thanks to head women's basketball coach Matthew Mitchell. Also, special thanks to the Russian Alina Matvieva. He's creeping.
Is that what he's doing? I'm trying to practice my lines. Girl can have any fun doing is going down to help nurse start this over.
Flipper.
Charles Dickens at your service. Back to shed a wee bit of light on literature in the... That was just a fail.
Don't stop the voice.
I know.
A comparison of life in the United States and Europe during the period from 1860 to 1865.
You don't have a
Wrong sign.
Really, all you need to know is that the upper class was fixated upon the hobby. Really? We are UK. We are UK. We are UK. We are UK.